Good day, everyone. I am Given Lapid from BSE English 3B, and I will be your discussant for today's lesson. In this video lecture, we will be discussing the trends and issues on curriculum and curriculum development. In order to understand the concept of our lesson today, let us first define what is curriculum trends. The International Bureau of Education defines curriculum trends as the increasingly important changes that are taking place in the field of curriculum to respond to current and anticipated developments in society and education. According to a Cash 2019, by 2025, one-third of the global population is going to be made up by the youngest generation, which they referred to as Generation Alpha, also known as the I generation. Generation Alpha are the children considered to be born between 2010 to 2025. Generation Alpha is considered to be the most technological savvy demographic till date. Technologically savvy, meaning sila yung mga bata na advance yung knowledge, advance yung kaalaman nila when it comes to technology. Kasi mas exposed sila ngayon sa mga gadgets, social media, video gaming, kaya mas advance yung knowledge nila kaysa sa mga older years. To further discuss the concept of curriculum trends, we have here the 6 groundbreaking trends that will help shape the future of education and the future of children. On May 29, 2019, the website called Digital Learning mentioned 6 groundbreaking trends that will help shape the future of education and in turn, the future of children in the coming years. And these are number 1, EdTech platforms. Number 2, Classroom of the Future. Number 3, AI, VR, and MR. 4, Customized Learning. Number 5, Wider choice. And lastly, number 6, future proofing. Let us first discuss the EdTech platforms. EdTech is the combination of education and technology. Us college students are very much familiar with this EdTech because we have EdTech courses during our first and second years. EdTech platforms are hardware and software designed to enhance teacher-led learning in classrooms and improve students' education outcomes. Also, it gives students choices of taking classes anytime, anywhere through online and offline class option. And in addition to this, EdTech platforms also aid in personalizing the learning experience through a total customization of the mode, time, and place of learning. It also offers students complete control over their pace of learning. We have here some examples of innovative educational technology. The first one is digital readers and tablets. Digital readers and tablets replace the bulkier hard copy textbooks with digital ones that are accessible via tablet. The concept of these digital readers and tablets is to replace the bulkier textbooks, the heavy textbooks that we have before. Kasi diba dati, nung elementary tayo or nung high school tayo, may libro pa tayo sa science, may libro pa tayo sa AP, sa math, masyado tayong maraming libro na dinadala sa school. But here in digital readers and tablets, nasa iisang tablet na lang or nasa iisang gadget na lang lahat ng lessons na kailangan nyo pag-aralan sa lahat ng subject na kailangan nyo i-take. Of course, the advantage of these digital readers and tablets is it regular updates of digital content, eliminates the cost of purchasing new textbooks editions every few years. Of course, the advantage is iisa na nga lang gagamitin natin. Hindi na natin kailangan bili every year ng bagong libro. Na ngayon, grade 5 ka, bibili ka ng libro for next year. Ito yung advantage nito. Isang tablet na lang, pwede mo na siyang gamitin for a few years. Ay, mag-update na lang siya kung ano ba yung mga kailangan mong subjects na i-take ngayong year. But on the other hand, it also has a disadvantage because in order to fully implement these digital tablets, schools would need to provide a tablet to every student and have a system in place for dealing with lost, damaged, or stolen assets. Sa side ng parents and students, advantage tong digital readers na to. Kasi isang tablet lang kailangan mong bilhin, tatagal na siya ng ilang taon. On the other hand, the disadvantage of these digital readers and tablets is in order to fully implement digital tablets to students, schools would need to provide a tablet to every student and have a system in place for dealing with lost, damaged, and stolen assets. Sa side ng parents and students, makakamura tayo. Kasi isang tablet na lang yung kailangan bilhin, andun na lahat ng mga kailangan pag-aralan, hindi ka na pabili-bili ng libro. Makakatipid tayo. But on the other hand, sa side naman ng school administration, costly siya to implement. Kasi kapag may damage, may nawala, kailangan yung palitan ng school, and dagdag yun sa gastusin nila. Kaya nagkaroon siya ng disadvantage. The next one is 3D printing. It creates hands-on models that students can investigate and interact with. And of course, you are very much familiar with this 3D printing because from digital, nagkikreate siya ng solid object na pwede nating magamit. The advantage of 3D printing is it reaches both visual and kinesthetic learners. While on the other hand, the disadvantage is 3D printing technology means students might not get to create their own physical models. So disadvantage is it speaks that ang ikinakabahala dito sa 3D printing, baka yung students umasa sa printer. Na from digital, magdi-design lang sila, mag-wait lang sila ng 3 to 4 hours, solid object na yung drawing nila or yung create nila. The next example is virtual reality. It takes students on virtual field trips to places otherwise inaccessible. Here in virtual reality, magsusuot ka lang ng virtual box and pwede ka nang makapunta through the help of technology, of course. Pwede ka nang makapunta sa iba't ibang lugar na gusto mong puntahan, especially ngayon na pandemic. Pwede mong magamit ng virtual reality na to, pwede ka magsuot ng virtual box. Like for example, you wanna go to Korea. Magsusuot ka lang ng virtual box and mararanasan mo na kung ano ba yung pakiramdam ng nasa Korea. This is the concept of virtual reality. The advantage of this virtual reality is that it provides engaging, real-life experiences that would otherwise be harmful or inaccessible. While on the other hand, the disadvantage is using this VR or virtual reality may develop a lack of spatial awareness in the real world. And for our next example, we have gamification. Gamification is gaming in the classroom ties together the fun part of play with the content and concepts that students must learn. The advantage of gamification is it increases student engagement and creates enthusiasm for the lesson. We already experienced this gamification last year in our EdTech course na kapag may kailangan tayong i-comply na activity or kailangan nating mag-quiz, gumagamit tayo ng educational apps like Kahoot, Quizzes, or Nearpod. And katulad nga ng sinabi dito, it increases student engagement. Kasi habang nag-aaral tayo, habang nagiging tayo ng knowledge and learning, at the same time, nag-enjoy tayo. Kasi hindi lang tayo basta nag-aaral, naglalaro din tayo, which increases our enthusiasm to learn. While on the other hand, the disadvantage of gamification is it takes time and training to learn how to effectively use games for learning. Kasi syempre, hindi naman natin magagamay yung game, yung rule ng game sa isang gamitan lang. Kaya masyado siyang matako sa oras kasi kailangan mo pang sanayin yung sarili mo na masanay dun sa laro. The next example we have is cloud technology. It is used to store and share digital textbooks, lesson plans, videos, and assignments, and give students the opportunity to chat live with their instructors and other classmates. The advantage of cloud technology is the students can easily access information from any device connected to the internet, while the disadvantage is the school would need to somehow ensure that every student has adequate access to the internet. Kasi itong cloud technology, hindi mo naman siya magagamit kung wala kang internet. Our next trend is called Classroom of the Future. Classroom of the Future means learning won't be limited by physical space or location. And also, hands-on training will become available via simulated scenarios. In addition to this, students will be able to move seamlessly from a traditional to a global virtual classroom. Likewise, here in the picture, it depicts that hindi na siya yung katulad ng mga classroom natin ngayon na may blackboard, uupo ka lang, papasok yung teacher, mag-aaral kayo. Here in Classroom of the Future, nag-i-integrate na sila ng technology para ma-engage yung students sa learning na kailangan nilang ma-attain. And in order to attain this Classroom of the Future concept, we will be needing technologies that will shape future classrooms. The first one is augmented reality or AR. Augmented reality is the technology that overlays interactive digital elements such as text, images, video clips, sounds, 3D models, and animations into real-world environments. And also, it provides students with opportunities to create their own content. The next one is multi-touch LCD screens. It allows a greater amount of interactivity, and it is also capable of detecting multiple touch inputs from many students simultaneously. The last is called flexible displays. It is lightweight, flexible, and extremely thin, just like regular paper. It can be rolled into tubes or be folded like newspapers. The next is AI, VR, and MR. The students from Generation Alpha are going to benefit in a huge way from the emerging technology and innovations. The beauty of trends like AI, VR, and MR in education is that in 10 minutes, it provides an experience of a subject that a textbook cannot. These technologies can enhance the understanding of course material so that students can easily and quickly grasp contents. The fourth one is customized learning. E-learning tools are helping develop personalized learning paths for children as per their abilities, using technology to give students more control over their education experience. It also lets children get to choose the time, place, path, and pace of his or her learning. Also, it customizes learning for each student's strengths, needs, skills, and interests. In short, customized learning gives the students freedom to choose which or what learning he wants to acquire. And for our next trend, we have wider choice. From the term itself, wide, students will be able to modify their learning process with the tools of their own choice because there will be different devices, different programs, and techniques to choose from. Like, for example, the trends like blended learning or BYOD, bring your own device, are some of the choices that set to help children shape their future in a big way. And the last is future proofing. Future proofing focuses on adapting to project based learning and working to make today's children future ready for changes. And also, the learning to apply their skills in shorter terms to a variety of situations. In short, if you are future proofing something, you design it or change it so that it will continue to be useful in the future in case the situation changes. And now, let us move on to our next topic, which is the 10 educational trends and issues according to Waterford.org. When the world was hit by the pandemic brought by COVID-19 virus, the educational landscape has changed in unpredictable ways. As we all know, COVID-19 brought a big transformation in the educational landscape here in the Philippines. And the transformation that I'm talking about is the implementation of online learning and distance education in all year levels across the country in order to address the changing educational needs of students as well as the teachers. In line with this, Waterford.org rounded up 10 educational trends and issues educators should keep an eye on and consider researching for their classroom. And these are: first, self-care, blended learning, personalized learning, STEAM curriculum, Genius Hour, digital citizenship, bite-sized learning, social emotional learning or SEL, gamification, and lastly, experiential learning. Let us first define self-care. And this is by far one of the most important trends that we should consider because COVID-19 pandemic and other world events might have overwhelmed many people. And engaging in a self-care routine has been clinically proven to reduce or eliminate anxiety and depression, reduce stress, improve concentration, increase happiness, and more. And as an educator, we might want to include assignments that help our students manage stress and make time for our own self-care as a teacher. And we have here some self-care tips that we might want to consider for ourselves as a teacher and also for our students' health. The next one is blended learning, also called as hybrid learning and mixed mode learning. Blended learning is when school or classroom structure in which students learn partially from direct teacher instruction and partially in more self-directed activities. Practice of using online and in-person learning. In short, blended learning is the combination of face-to-face and online education. Let us now move on to personalized learning. To fully understand personalized learning is an educational approach that aims to customize learning for each student's strengths, needs, skills, and interests. Each student gets a learning plan that is based on what they know and how they learn best. For example, one-on-one tutoring, mentoring, online course providers, search engines, or corporate training example. The importance of personalized learning is that it allows students to express their curiosity and put forth their best work using tools and strategies that highlight their abilities rather than illuminate their disabilities. Fulton County Schools listed 7 principles of personalized learning. And these are number 1, choice and voice. Next is mastery-based learning, flexible pacing, co-planning learning, choice for demonstrating learning, varied strategies, and just-in-time direct instruction. Let us now move on to STEAM curriculum. STEAM curriculum is an educational approach that integrates science, technology, engineering, arts, and mathematics. Maybe some of you here heard the STEAM curriculum for the first time. Pero sa ibang countries, like in the US, they are integrating STEAM in their curriculum rather than STEM alone. Dito kasi sa atin, sa Philippines, ino-offer ng separate yung art track. STEAM curriculum is shown to provide students with more well-rounded and practical education. And as it says here, adding arts can improve students' performance. And adding art assignments can help low-achieving students understand STEM subjects better. The fifth one is Genius Hour. Genius Hour is a project where students inside the classroom or sometimes employees at a workplace are allowed to explore their own passions and wonders for a set amount of time. Also, it encourages students to practice creativity and independent thinking skills and can also develop a genuine love of learning. Some examples of Genius R projects include researching helicopters, creating a machine, or any ideas that integrates brainstorming, writing questions, researching, creating and building, and also sharing. Next is digital citizenship. It is the ability to use technology and the internet both effectively and appropriately. As assignments and lessons become online, students need the skills to develop a healthy relationship with digital media. Digital citizenship is essential to helping students to achieve and understand digital literacy, as well as ensuring cyberbullying prevention, online safety, digital responsibility, and digital health and wellness. Let us now move on to bite-sized learning. Bite-sized learning is also called as micro-learning. It is an educational technique that provides students with brief, intensive activities that target specific academic skills. It is short, highly focused content based on a single topic or problem. Bite-sized learning is as simple as it sounds. That is, breaking down e-learning content into digestible chunks, which is easier for learners to work through at a pace that suits them. It makes much easier for learners to fit into their busy schedules. Next is social emotional learning. It is a process of developing the self-awareness, self-control, and interpersonal skills that are vital for school, work, and life success. People with strong social emotional skills are better able to cope with everyday challenges and benefit academically, professionally, and socially. We also have gamification. As we have discussed a while ago, it is a learning strategy that involves using games and rewards to teach students. Students who played gamified activities in class can learn to value learning as its own reward and become active, engaged learners over time. Lastly, the experiential learning. It allows students to develop knowledge and skills in a setting outside of the classroom. Moreover, it is an engaged learning process where students learn by doing and by reflecting on their experiences. The perfect example for this is a field trip. Let us now move on to our next topic, the additional trends in curriculum. The first is trauma-sensitive education. It is also known as trauma-informed education. It recognizes that trauma has a big impact on how students learn in school. Because when a student experiences violence, hunger, homelessness, or other traumatic events, the brain rewires itself to cope up with the situation, and this may affect the student's performance at school. This trend recognizes two things. First, recognizes that this happens. One must have to understand what it is and how it impacts children. It is important to do everything you can to know what's going on with your students. Example, in an area with a high poverty rate or where large percentage of parents are incarcerated, identify students who may have experienced trauma and be on the lookout for situations as they arise. Second, it goes beyond recognizing the impact of trauma and figuring out how to work with it. The child's experience can never be erased. However, as an educator, we must learn how to teach children to cope with it while still engaging in the classroom. Number 2, Educator Self-Care. Educators should address their own trauma or struggles, or they won't be as effective in helping their students. Educators are being encouraged to take care of themselves as part of their strategy for becoming better educators. This encourages teachers to take care of their physical health, like not putting off important doctor's appointments, eating healthy, getting the exercise, and sleep their bodies need. It is best to seek help when dealing with trauma, whether it is recent or past. And lastly, student educators. It is giving students the chance to contribute to what goes on in the classroom. It is also encouraging students to contribute to classroom rules and consequences. Example, teacher will allow students to have 10 to 15 minutes of brainstorming where they will write classroom rules they agree to follow for the school year. Rules will be posted in the classroom and students will sign the contract agreeing to abide the rules. For our next topic, the latest educational reforms in the Philippines. And us, future teachers, must keep in mind these latest educational reforms here in our country. The first one is Republic Act number 10533, also known as the Enhanced Basic Education Act of 2013, popularly known as the K-12 Education. This law is signed by our former President Benigno Aquino III last May 15, 2013. This law enhanced the Philippine basic education system by strengthening its curriculum and increasing the number of years for basic education, particularly 1 year for kindergarten, 6 years for elementary, and 6 years for secondary education, whereas 4 years for junior high and 2 years for senior high school. The next one is the Republic Act number 10931, popularly known as the Universal Access to Quality Tertiary Education Act. This act promotes universal access to quality tertiary education by providing for free tuition and other school fees in state universities and colleges, local universities and colleges, and state-run technical vocational institutions. This act was filed by Senator Ralph Recto, principally sponsored by Senator Bam Aquino, and was signed by President Rodrigo Duterte on August 3, 2017. And we are down to our last topic, the curriculum contextualization, indigenization, and localization in the Philippines. Contextualization is a process of presenting lesson in a meaningful and relevant context based on previous experiences and real-life situations. Indigenization is a process by which indigenous ways of knowing, being, doing, and relating are incorporated into educational, organizational, cultural, and social structures of the institution. And localization is a process of adapting and relating the content of the curriculum and the process of teaching and learning to local condition, environment, and resources. Tinong, 2018, says that the concept of localization and contextualization falls on the idea that students learn best when experiences in the classroom have meanings and relevance in their lives. If students were put in an actual learning environment, letting them to manipulate, relate, and adapt to various learning opportunities and resources available within the locality or community, profound learning will be assured and realized. Teachers and students comprehend concepts by relating and presenting lesson on the context of prevailing local environment, culture, and resources, so lessons are becoming more real life, customized, and appropriate. The flexibility of the K-12 curriculum allows for curriculum enhancement at the local level in relation to the diverse background of learners. Policy basis of localization, contextualization, and indigenization includes the following. These policies will be discussed further in the next slides. The first policy we have is the Governance of Basic Education Act of 2001 or Republic Act 9155. In Section 2, it says that it encourages local initiatives for improving the quality of basic education. The values, needs, and aspirations of a school community are reflected in the program of education. Schools and learning centers shall be empowered to make decisions on what is best for the learners they serve. Next is the Enhanced Basic Education Act of 2013 or Republic Act number 10533, whereas Section 5 states that the DepEd or Department of Education shall adhere to the following standards and principles in developing the enhanced basic education curriculum, whereas it should be contextualized and global. It should also be flexible enough to enable and allow schools to localize, indigenize, and enhance the same based on their respective educational and social contexts. The production and development of locally produced teaching materials shall be encouraged, and approval of these materials shall devolve to the regional and division education units. Next is the DepEd Order number 35 series of 2016, or also known as the Learning Action Cell, as a K-12 basic education program, school-based continuing professional development strategy for the improvement of teaching and learning. It says that the teacher's guide and learner's materials may be modified to accommodate the unique contexts of a particular locality. Next is DepEd Order number 42, series of 2016, or also known as the Policy Guidelines on Daily Lesson Preparation for the K-12 Basic Education Program. Whereas it states that there are some considerations in doing contextualization, and these are relating with the community, appropriate relationship of the context with the competency, spiraling in contextualization, contextualization with indigenous communities, and contextualization with ethnicities. And there is also a major curriculum thrust, which is the contextualization, whereas it states that localization and indigenization are degrees or levels of doing contextualization. As we move deeper into the community's context, we are moving towards indigenization. Next one is the Depth and Order number 32 series of 2015, also known as the Adopting the Indigenous Peoples Education Curriculum Framework, where in section 2 it states that recognizing the right of indigenous peoples to basic education that is culturally rooted and responsive. The iPad curriculum framework seeks to provide guidance to schools and other education programs, both public and private, as they engaged with indigenous communities in localizing, indigenizing, and enhancing the K-12 curriculum based on their respective educational and social contexts. To conclude our lesson for today, the classroom is continually changing from the subject matter that is covered to the way it is taught. Technology is likely to shape the lives of this generation, especially when it comes to their education. In the coming years, children are likely to see more of anytime, anywhere education, according to Phillips 2018. The said trends may sound like undeniable solutions to improve the quality of education. However, they mark a truly radical shift in how teachers create curriculum for their students. Though integrating new trends may be difficult, educators should still embrace any changes they see value in. Using the old standards or methods of curriculum building simply because it's easier will definitely affect the students for generations to come. To help students learn and grow, educators must do their best, and these new curriculum trends may be an effective way to do so. And that's it for our lesson today. I hope that you learned something from me. Thank you for listening.